everyone, my name is Nilly and welcome to Studies, School and Stuff. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about revising for A-level languages. Now, I did A-level Spanish, I did Edexcel A-level Spanish, but hopefully some of these tips will be useful to anyone that did any other A-level languages. But yeah, so that this video doesn't go on for absolutely ever, I'm going to start by talking about how I revised for my writing exam. And that's what this video is going to focus on. I'm going to try and make a part 2, so I can tell you how I revised for speaking. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. But yes, to start with, writing exam. So in our writing exam, we had to study a book and we had to study a film, and then we had to write essays on them in Spanish, kind of analysing them and responding to questions. Now, my first tip would be, and the most important thing that I did, was I read the book and I watched the film, because it's very hard to analyse something that you haven't actually seen or read. Now, when I started, we started with the book and I read the book in English first. And I think that that was really important that I did that, because if I just tried to read the book in Spanish, I would not have understood what was going on. The book that we studied was The House of the Spirits, La Casa de los Espíritus by Isabel Allende. And yeah, it's a thick book. It's like that thick. And the first time I read it in English, I was a little bit lost as to what was going on. And I was like, how on earth am I supposed to analyse this in Spanish? But I did read it. I think maybe I read it 2 or 3 times, and yeah, that was really useful. I don't think I ever read the full book in Spanish, actually. I don't think I got all the way through it. I think we did sections of it, and I skimmed through bits of it, and I had quotes from it, but I don't think I ever read the full book in Spanish. The next thing I did to prepare was, when we were in school, we had this pack thing that the school had paid for or subscribed to or something, which I'm not going to show you because it's like copyrighted or whatever. But it helped us like break it down, and this was really important because we were in lockdown when we were studying most of the book. So I guess if we'd have had the teacher there, maybe they wouldn't have necessarily done it like this, although I think they still used it last year, or the year before. But anyway, yeah, so we had this book and it had vocab in it and things like that, which was really helpful. Our teacher had also prepared for us sheets in Spanish, talking about like the techniques that we had, so like authorial devices. In The House of the Spirits, there's something really important called magic realism. So there were sheets on that. There were sheets on like themes of feminism. There were sheets about the different people. And so I went through those sheets and I highlighted key information. As they were in Spanish, I annotated them for words I didn't know. And from these, I made, where possible, and not for all of them because I didn't get around to doing all of them, these placemats. Now, so as you see, I've got the title, and then I've broken, so this is feminism, theme of feminism, and I've broken it down into the key female characters, and I've written bullet points about them. And I've also done this for religion. As you can see, there's less on religion than there is on feminism, because I guess I had less notes on religion from those sheets. So yeah, I wrote down things like that. I also created a quotes book, where I broke it down again by section. So I've got hyperboles as one of them, or metaphors, and as you can see, for metaphors, I've like written which chapter you can find the quote in, and then I've written out the quote in Spanish. And then I think what I did was, oh yes, so I highlighted them afterwards, ones that I thought were either really important or were maybe I could use for several different things, because I'm not going to learn all the quotes in this book. That's just not going to happen. So I went through and found key ones for each of them, and I tried to learn those. I think I might have used flashcards for that, to help me learn those, and that was one of the ways I studied for this exam. The other key thing I did, and this I did with the film as well, was I did practice questions. I did lots of practice questions. So we had these booklets, which the school had again created for us, with past exam paper questions, and we would do them, take them to our teacher, plan them, things like that. And that was so important, because learning to write an essay in a different language is quite difficult, in a way, and it took me several attempts to get it right and to learn what this exam board was looking for, because to be honest, a lot of writing essays is learning what the exam board wants in the essay. So once I'd learned that, I found it much easier to write them. Also, one thing I forgot to mention was context research. So I did research into the different areas, anything that I didn't think I had enough notes on. For example, I do remember doing some research into magic realism, even though I think we got a sheet on that. But say there was something, say we hadn't got any notes on magic realism, I would research it online, look up what magic realism is, take my own notes, so that I really understood or tried my best to understand what it was that I was supposed to know, rather than just being able to like whittle up. What's going on with my words? Being able to say all the things that I knew were in the textbook, because that's not so helpful. I also practiced planning essays and like almost learning some of the plans to an extent, because there's only so many questions they can ask you. So if I've practiced planning enough essays, that means I'll have ideas if things like that come up. And then if it says what instead of how, then I can just change slightly how I'd word it. I would be careful not to learn too many essay questions, because obviously you don't know what's going to come up and you actually need to understand what's going on as well. But yeah, with the film that we studied, it was quite similar in terms of what I did in preparation. I watched the film. Now, obviously, the film, so we studied the film Volver, directed by Pedro Almodóvar, and Volver has English subtitles, so we watched it with English subtitles to start with, because we would not have understood what was going on. I think I also watched it without the English subtitles, although that was more to improve my level of Spanish anyway. Again, we had worksheets to fill in, and that like helped us to check that we were understanding what was going on, rather than just watching the film for the fun of it. We did research into like the different film angles and things in English, to find out their symbolism and things like that. And then again, I made some of these placemat things for the different characters. They don't look as pretty. I guess I was running out of time or energy by this point, but this is one for one of my characters. It's literally just done in black biro. Yeah, and I've got characteristics, quotes, and importance for the different characters. I found placemats was a useful way of organising it, because they're kind of like flashcards, but they're going to have more information than that on it, so why would I try and cram it into a tiny flashcard? And it just made everything clear in my brain, and tried to put it into little sections, because otherwise it can seem quite overwhelming to just watch a whole film and have to analyse all of it just like that. Something else I did was, because I saw that there had been a past exam question on analyse this song that's in the film, I tried to learn the song Volver that's in the film, because that also gave me some useful quotes that I could use, because that just made it easier for me to remember them. I think like with the book, I probably learnt quotes. I think I knew quotes just from having written so many essays and looking back at those quotes. So that was useful. And I think I also took notes throughout the entire film at one point, as in like, I have this weird thing where I can like write and be looking, so I could be looking at you and just like writing notes, which is kind of creepy, I know. But yeah, so I think I managed to watch the film and take notes throughout. I think the first time we watched it, we were encouraged to take notes, and I just did it again. Yeah, I've just found them. So I would write down things like scene 1, woman clean graves, red credits, like key things that I noticed that I thought would be relevant, particularly after I went back and watched it again. I think watching it more than once is also really useful, because not only does it mean you remember the details more, it means you know what you're supposed to be looking out for, and so you can go back and check it. I found that doing drama actually probably quite helped me with this, because it's kind of like taking notes for live theatre, which I'd kind of practiced in year 11 when we went to see live theatre. But yeah, so I'd write down characters that were there, colours that were there, which shots they were used at different points. I think I've got things like that. We also attended a webinar, because again, lockdown, we were in lockdown, and that just meant that we got some more notes, so I just took notes on that. I also learnt vocab for the exams. We were given vocab sheets in one of the packs that we were given, so I learnt key vocab, and from learning the quotes I also learnt key vocab, and from writing essays I learnt key vocab, because the questions are all in Spanish, so if there's a word in there you don't know, then that might make it a bit more difficult for you. Not impossible, because like when you do reading comprehension you're not going to understand every word, but yeah, I found learning keywords, like for example in the book it's talking a lot about revolution and like civil unrest and things, so I needed to learn words like that. and not only be able to recognise it, but also to be able to use it in my essay if they were keywords, because otherwise my essay is going to be really vague and not to the point. The other part of the exam for writing is a translation exam from English into Spanish for my exam. So I will talk about that, but I will talk about that in my other video because the topics covered are related to the ones we do in speaking, so that's not so much to do with the book and the film. So I think that's all that I wanted to cover in this video. I hope it's been somewhat helpful. I don't really know the best way to structure videos like that. I think with speaking it'll be easier for me to explain, but with the book and the film I feel like my notes are all over the place, so me trying to explain my notes to you probably isn't so helpful. But if you want to see how I organised these notes, as in like structured them in my folder, then please go and watch my other video, which is about how I organise my notes for A-level Spanish. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my video on the speaking exam, which hopefully will be a little bit more organised than this. Anyway, please like this video if you did like it, and thank you very much for watching. Bye!